For coming out on a Monday morning, bright and early. We, just so people know, we are being videotaped. Do I need to call the meeting to order?
Yep.
Oh, okay, so is there a motion to call the meeting to order?
So moved.
I do have to do that?
No, you don't.
I don't have to, it's quiet.
Pledge of allegiance.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So, okay, we are being videotaped, and I think we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And back there, there's a flag on the wall. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And quickly, we'll just start with introductions. Lynn, if you want to just start.
Lynn Lenhart.
Kate Navarro.
Michael Cooper.
Jody Monroe.
Dr. Douglas over there. Diane Stever.
Matt Downey.
Laura Bierman.
Charmaine Widgesinger.
Judy Kehoe.
Okay. And Tom, you're going to do a quick presentation?
Yeah, the reason for the call to order of this meeting today is at the last Board of Education meeting, there was a question posed by the board in regards to potential reductions. What was asked is that if the district administration could look at the possibility of using some overage on our 4% fund balance this year to potentially purchase some items for the 2013-14 school year, thus creating a budgetary hole for next year because we'd already purchased the items. And if that could potentially be done to bridge the gap of $221,000 in this year's budget that we would have to make reductions for. We were planning on doing that over the next month because the board adopted a spending plan, not the actual cuts. What happened is we've escalated that timeline as quick as possible for the interest of the board. It brings us to today's presentation to try to give you information. The district does not necessarily need approval to go forward, but in light of this, the only reason this funding is available is because of the hard work of the board as well as the negotiating units of the district on the teachers' side as well as the administration and the bus savings. That is the only reason. These funds will have to eventually come out of a budget. But we have this opportunity here after 4 years of reductions, one after another. We're pretty much at the bottom and the breaking point that the board asked us to see what we could do to be creative. And today, basically, we have the following. As everyone can remember, this was the prioritized reduction list, which was put up the same exact way that it was the year before in the same time frame for the public and the community to acknowledge. We also made all of these reductions openly in public and from meeting to meeting over a course of 9 weeks. Every one of these reductions were put out to the public. Obviously, we ended up on a final prioritized list the same exact way we did the year before to this year and put it up on the night that the board eventually adopted the budget. Up here currently under the tentative adopted budget that the board has, the 4 items in highlight would be subject to most likely the reductions that would be put into place by the district upon a passage of the 2013-14 budget if the community desires. That would still have to come back to the board after any approved budget at that point. However, in light of that, we know the number is $221,000. With that, district administration has gone back, District administration has gone back to look at what are potential items that within statute that we could potentially purchase sort of ahead of time and hold without impacting the budget or without causing a loss of items due to keeping them for a period of time. Basically, this is not a final list, it's just the options that we have been able to come up with in roughly 5 days. So please, we just want to make sure that you see some of our thoughts of what we're looking at. There's a potential, because we have some room in our equipment line this year, to do some pre-purchasing on equipment. It does one of two things. By doing some pre-purchasing on the equipment, we possibly get on the bid prices this year's bid instead of next year's bid. As we say, prices always go up. In addition, you have the biggest thing is we use copy paper. We just have to make sure logistically we can store it and there is no ruining, because we're not throwing good money after bad and having to purchase it if something happens to it. That's about $46,000. The two equipment purchases, I'm sorry, right off the bat are mostly in the pink. There's more than two. The two sort of capital or small project are in the orange. So those first two total about 25,000. The paper would be about 46. The area in pink are an auto scrubber, a carpet extractor, a side-by-side scrubber, and then also a Ford F-250 to replace a 4x4 pickup with a plow. The materials in this equipment line are deteriorating rapidly. They are also of senior age, so to speak, in the world of municipal government, because the district has been holding off these purchases for some time. That is 3144, about 49.5. So right there we have over 120 in potential pre-purchases. And then there's various instructional and tech supplies. This number can fluctuate. We haven't really dug into this number as much, but we feel safe to say I think Judy did a lot of the work here, as well as Jody, and sale of about another $74,000 in pre-purchase. And then also we had scheduled for next year a full website redevelopment, because the website's basically broken many positions. We're checking to see if we can pre-purchase that with BOCES. We just do not have the definitive answer, but that's $21,000. And then athletic uniforms, I mean, we are planning a purchase. Why wait? Go ahead and get those started. So those are things that right now we thought of. We would probably like to explore more to see where we can do some timely efficient, but we also want to make sure the board understands this is virtually adding 220, even though we're taking it out to offset it in sort of a money purchase timeline situation. In a way, no matter what, you're creating a budget that will be $221,000 sort of above where it should be, even though it will still be within the spending limits. That means roughly between the additional fund balance of $250 to the $221, you've got an extra $471,000 in funds that will need to be covered most likely in the following year. And if we have to decrease our fund balance, that will be added on top of that. So I always believe to tell you the financial beforehand, that you understand that if we do this, it will be a good year, but it does make potentially next year challenging, even more challenging than it would be following the budget plan. So going from there, those are the options that you have at your disposal. I also have a couple others. I've got the Excel sheet for the sports that we reviewed, as well. If you wanted to, I have the information on the administrative costs that we have in the district, which are the lowest in the capital region.
Tom, I was wondering, last meeting when we discussed this, you were very concerned that you would not be able to use that money for equipment for some reason. Why were you concerned that you couldn't do that last time, and now you are including equipment on this time?
And Judy, pipe in whenever. But one of the reasons is that you have to, your equipment is a mandatory line that you cannot exceed when you approve a budget.
Okay.
Judy has already checked to see how much that was in last year's budget, how much we have purchased already, and we may be deferring some less important purchases to make these purchases at this time, that if we can recoup those over time, we'll be fine too.
So if, however, as the year gets closer to the end and you realize that your equipment line items are getting higher, do you believe that there still are places that you could find other purchases that would not be equipment?
Yes, I mean, we've looked at this, like I said, this is like 5 days of work going
Right,
through.
right.
That's why the spending plan is we can't exceed that, and we
Right.
will not exceed that. However we do it, we just want to make sure that we have time to do it appropriately and get it into the right area. If we are directed with the board's intent to make sure that we create that budgetary sort of gap hole, it's
Right.
not really a gap, so I don't know what to call it, but that pre-offsetting of purchases, we'll find a way. It's just that we don't have it definitive at
Right.
this point. We feel that if we had to, we're talking about roughly $49,000 there. Like, we already know the print cartridges, the projector bulbs, that could be somewhere between $20,000 to $30,000 to $35,000. So there's some soft in here that we have to really look at.
Thank you.
Can you clarify even why we're talking about this? Why we ended up with some extra funding at the end of the year? I know
Yeah.
you said at the beginning that
Yeah.
that
Well,
you know,
what-
decisions were made well, but obviously we did better than we anticipated. And where were some of the savings that have allowed us even to look, even
Yeah.
be meeting this morning?
Over the past year, and this has been a trend for BC especially, the teachers, the staff, and the administrators in the financial time have really been hugging their budgets very tightly. So each year, the district has ended with some surplus. That surplus, however, is usually refilling the amount of fund balance being used. In other words, 2 years ago, you were using 2.5 million. I think you ended with a surplus of about 1.7 million 2 years ago. That helped to let the district use that sort of loan of its own money for another year. To the point that this year, we ended up with a surplus that will refill the 1.75 million. Even though it was not that much, we just did not require as much of that money to use, and it's primarily because of negotiations and bus. The transportation change saved the district an unanticipated amount of roughly $1 million. That was not even in our ballpark projection. So that helps us to live and fight another day. I mean, in our budget, we were projecting 130,000. And until you run the actual process, you really can't fully value the savings. In negotiations did change our salary output because the teachers ended up addressing during negotiations a major step change. It doesn't change steps, but it dropped the amount that under Triborough you would automatically have to lay out. And that, along with other contract settlements and so forth, I think netted the district in last year about 600,000. This coming budget year, it would offset our budget by about, I believe 700,000. And what happens is that's change in money. That doesn't necessarily mean if you haven't already budgeted for, you've got that money, but it changes our budget to budget outlook down by that much. So you're looking at a net savings to the budget in hard copy form of about 1.75 million. So as you can see, that changed how much we were planning on using in fund balance. Because of some other savings, we were a little bit above that 4%, which would be, I believe, about $160,000. And we cannot be above that 4%, so we would have to look at our purchases, and that gives us a one-time, and I repeat, a one-time only option to be able to do this offsetting.
Thank
I have
you.
a question. Tom, you have at the top $25,000 of O&M projects. On the reductions list, there was the top one was $100,000 of O&M projects. Would doing these two projects here at the cost of $25,000, would that change the $100,000 that's at the top of the list?
No, that would
You would
not.
just backfill.
These are projects that we normally would do inside, like district-wide painting. Every one of our buildings need to have some moderate work done. That 100,000 would help us get into a sustainable pattern. See, that's one of the benefits. If you authorize us to go ahead and do this, and we are able to put that $100,000 in, that will fill its own hole next year in aid. And then roughly, the district would have to carry $30,000 a year to get $100,000 worth of work done and covered by the state. So that's a good financial plan too. I mean, the big thing is whenever you use something and create that budget hole, you've got to have money coming back to fill it in. Here's the hope, because I believe in giving you the bad and the good. The hope would be is that spending on the state level would potentially increase to offset and fill this hole. But that does not leave room for growth in the budget, which we are going to have too. So we would have to see extra spending on the state to fill this hole, plus our growth, to potentially be in the same position we would be in this year if we went forward with the budgetary plan. Matt.
Just a point of clarification, I know I asked this at the last meeting, but this year's current budget, did it include any of these savings that you're seeing this year? I think you said you rolled it over without those savings, but.
The 12-13 budget, you're asking, did it include the under budget amounts that we had projected?
The 13-14 budget
And the
proposal.
13, these items that are on this list were all included in the 13-14. So what we're looking at is, could we choose to spend that now in order to take advantage of some of those surplus monies in 12-13? So it allows you to make those reductions
But
from
no,
next year's budget.
And that's not what I'm specifically asking, is that the savings that we know we have for Boston, the various other savings in this year's current budget, did they get rolled over when you were building the new budget for 13-14?
Oh, we are always trying to update those estimates as to what is in fund balance. When we did the presentation at the meeting on the 17th, yes, those savings were factored in there, and that's what was showing, that we're slightly above the 4%, which is why we then came to this
No,
conversation.
were they built into the baseline budget?
Into the baseline
The
budget.
$90
In other
million,
words,
did it include what we now have as potential savings this year?
Yeah, we rolled forward all of those costs as part of our baseline. So again, you're taking advantage of the surplus to shift it to the current year.
No, I
You
think
get-
the savings are reflected in the 13-14 budget.
Right, is the
In other words, the
transportation savings
transportation
reflected
budget.
in the
Oh,
90
those
million?
savings, yes. Oh, for
They're
those
reflected in the
savings,
90
yes,
million.
and the teacher's
Okay.
contract as well.
Well, okay.
So, yes,
That's-
because
that's what I
that's all
wanted
part of the
clarification on.
adopted contract.
Yeah, in other words, the budget's been readjusted, I think, is what
Yes,
you're saying.
yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking of the other savings and not the big ones that we've been talking about all year.
I did needed to clarify that for
Yeah.
myself.
Yes.
Any other questions?
So what we would need is the understanding or consensus of the board that you are okay with doing this to potentially offset any of the reductions scheduled for the 2013-2014 school year proposed spending plan. It does not change the spending plan. It does not change the potential tax levy, as that has to be recalculated. I'd warn everybody, reevaluations out there, so please be aware of that as well.
Could you put the list back up, the reductions list, please? We don't have to put everything back, is that correct? There's 4, I just want to
It-
clarify.
Right now, this is a spending plan.
Right.
The reductions do not go with the spending plan. The reductions come when we must officially balance the budget pending any approved budget. So in other words, Dr. Wood is saying, here, if I have a spending plan and I know I have a hole, after potential approval, I would come back and tell the board, now it's, we have to
Right.
fill this hole or we do not have to fill this hole.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, Laura.
Tom, one thing I guess I want to make sure with this, I mean, I think this is great, I think it's wonderful, I appreciate all the hard work you guys have done to try and make this work, I think it's a great idea. One little concern would be that next year's budget, the 13-14 budget year, in other words, would have less supplies, just for example, on paper. When you're creating the 14-15 budget year, I would hope that you would take into account and put that back up and not do just a straight budget, to, a baseline to baseline, because that's, otherwise we're going to be hurt in the 14-15 year. So-
Yeah, and I think you're making a very valid point. it doesn't necessarily change the amounts that we have in those budget codes from budget year to budget year. In other words, if we had 80,000 for supplies, if we did this, we are not necessarily reducing that by 80,000. It just means that we should not be spending
Oh, okay.
40,000 in
Okay.
that budget line.
Okay.
But if it did show up, that's when Judy gives the presentation, she would explain why it went up, say, by 20% instead of 10%.
Exactly, because that's what I was gonna say, when you develop the 14-15, it's gonna look funny if suddenly our budget, you know, in this case,
Yeah.
the office paper, suddenly that lot's
Yeah.
office supplies went way up, and,
Right.
and their explanation would be, we purchased early on.
Right, and I think that's good because sometimes memories get short
Yes.
as to the immediacy of whatever issue is here.
No, I appreciate this, thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? So, I mean, I don't know if we want to go around and kind of put your opinion in, or,
Let's take a vote. This has for a vote?
We don't need,
we
we don't need a
don't really
motion.
need to vote, we just need to
Okay.
give a consensus that if we like this plan, which would mean for the first time in 6 years, we had no cuts, and, you know, being creative. So I guess, yes? I'm hearing yes from everyone? For the-
Mike?
I
Yes,
just
Mike?
want to make sure that the public is aware that if we face a future tough budget year, these cuts are potentials. So this is as Tom said, a one-time fix. So I just want people to be aware that this doesn't put everything out of the woods for the foreseeable future.
Right. And hopefully next year's will be better, and I guess I'm the optimistic one.
Maybe we could even save more in transportation. I can't believe how many kids are driven to school.
Yeah.
This meeting does give you a different perspective of the start of the day, yes.
Yeah, I just want to echo Mrs. Bierman's appreciation of the staff. You know, we put you under the,
Yeah.
you know, the pressure to come up with the savings and in a very short timeline. When oftentimes people would have to wait for the next regularly scheduled board meeting, and the public came out and we came out, and you were able to deliver the numbers. So appreciate that for everyone who worked on it to expedite the process.
And one of the things, if I can may, I'm part of the board because I know special meetings are difficult. This is of such importance, just budgetary, that we are in the middle of a printing deadline to print our highlights. In a middle of, we only basically have 2 newspaper cycles left for the budget, that the reason why this 7 o'clock meeting helps us in communicating the accurate information to the community. It is not an attempt to have sort of superficial meetings just to say, oh, nobody will show up, thank you for coming, but also so that accurate and more up-to-date information can be out, and that we are all behind this as a board.
Okay, great.
So do you,
So
and
is
we don't have to
everybody
do a
okay?
vote, but I think we're all okay to,
Okay, and
Finally go
we'll
the year
just
with
put it
no
in the minutes that consensus was reached to try to offset this. Okay?
Great.
okay.
Public comment.
We have something else?
Well, just the recognition of visitors.
So very briefly, because I know everybody wants to start the day, I'm Tim Benitez from the BCAA. I'd just like to echo the sentiments and say on behalf of the hundreds of families who were parents of student athletes, we thank you for the extraordinary work and sharpening your pencils and rescinding these 4 cuts. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Anyone else?
Motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
So moved.
All in favor?
So-
Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Whew, that feels